Hello, I'm Sana Khan, the lead analyst in the agriculture sustainability team.
And I'm Parvathi, the research analyst in the same team.
In our group, we take a close look at the evolving landscape of sustainability and agriculture as the private sector and policymakers progressively add measures to tackle climate change impacts. We recently authored a report about the top 10 key trends in sustainable agriculture to watch out for in 2025. And we found that while there is an uptake of policy and protocol announcements addressing agriculture, stakeholders recognize that sustainability in agriculture is not one size fits all. From companies relaxing emission targets to countries delaying the implementation of sustainable agriculture policies, there's still a lot of work to do. So while 2024 was considered a year of delay for sustainable agriculture policies, will that continue in 2025? Parvathi, do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Thank you, Sana. Yes, this trend is likely to continue into this year. In 2025, Europe is expected to strategically pause on new sustainability legislation to allow for more time to adapt and prepare for the transition. This could lead to further delays in implementation. Why is Europe or the EU doing this? It's because they recognize the need to balance immediate economic priorities with long-term sustainability goals and also maintain competitiveness in an increasingly uncertain market. It's going to be really interesting to see how they work towards achieving this delicate balance. One of the exciting developments recently is the introduction of the EU Omnibus, which aims to simplify reporting requirements for businesses. We can also expect more clarity this year on major regulations like the EUDR or the European Union Deforestation Regulation, especially with the ongoing protests from various stakeholders on this regulation. For example, soybean producers in Brazil and Argentina are concerned about increased production costs they'll have to face to comply with the regulation, and the EU relies heavily on imports from these two countries. On the other hand, the EU-Mercosur agreement is also facing its own set of challenges, with EU farmers this time protesting against cheaper imports. This adds another layer of complexity to an already complex situation, and this could delay action further. Now, shifting our focus to the United States, the new Trump administration is prioritizing energy dominance and security over environmental issues. The new government's focus on deregulation, subsidy restructuring, and trade policies could profoundly impact the agriculture sector, not just in the US, but also globally. For example, the potential repeal of the IRA or Inflation Reduction Act's biofuel tax credits could reduce the adoption of climate-smart agriculture and also biofuel production in the US.
That's a very interesting contrast between the two regions, Parvati. What do you think all of this means for farmers in the United States?
Yes, the farmers are likely to be the most highly impacted. Budget cuts to environmental programs could increase financial risks for farmers, especially the smallholder farmers. Both farmers and consumers could face negative impacts from retaliatory tariffs imposed by other countries, some of which we're already starting to see. For example, consumers could face higher prices as well as supply shortages for goods where the US has trade deficits. This includes goods like fruits, vegetables, and sugar. So, as we navigate these changes, it's very crucial to stay both informed and engaged in the conversation about the future of agriculture in these key regions and also beyond them. As countries reprioritize their strategies, what can we expect from the private sector? Would be keen to hear your thoughts here, Sana.
Of course, as you know, disruptive technologies such as AI and enhanced performance of new agriculture input products, such as new seed varieties, will continue to push the sustainability agenda in the sector. So for the private sector, sustainability is not just going to go away from the list of priorities, but will it become a lower priority? Yes. Corporations are trying to navigate this complex policy landscape that requires them to comply with rules such as deforestation while also relaxing their carbon pledge targets. 2025 is a checkpoint year for carbon pledges announced by all sectors, not just agriculture. But within agriculture, it is clear that corporations, especially in the downstream of the supply chain, were unable to achieve ambitious targets and are now rolling back on some sustainability commitments.
Indeed, yes. This trend of scaling back on sustainability ambitions seems likely to continue this year. What about momentum in the carbon markets, Sana? What can we say about the role of carbon markets in supporting sustainable agriculture?
So the carbon market for agriculture is still a smaller share of the total carbon market, right? So while we are seeing some progress in terms of introduction of new protocols, policies, and systems, carbon markets will not have a significant impact in the short term. on agriculture emissions at least, because navigating the space still remains a challenge for farmers. However, we can expect to see more regenerative agriculture projects approved this year. Verra already approved the first large-scale project in January this year, promoting practices such as reduced tillage, cover cropping, and residue management. Additionally, there are 70 projects currently under validation, so it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. In short, as pressure from policies from EU specifically keeps rising with lower investments from private sector into sustainability, we will see farmers facing higher cost of production and penalized for not complying with ambitious sustainability goals. To find out more on key trends in the sector, please download the report below. Thank you so much for listening to us.